Hello and welcome to Flac Talk, where we talk about tech, business, life stuff.
Just art in general. Yeah,
Yeah,
tech,
we're still figuring it out as we
still
go.
figuring it out to go.
But I'm sure down the line we'll come up with a system, like a consistent process and everything. But for now, we're just taking it easy and going with the flow. I
Yeah,
am your host Ali.
and I'm also your co-host, Shaggy. You can just call me Shaggy. But yeah.
Yeah, Shaggy.
This awkward pause is going to be edited out, but yeah, let's move on. Moving
I
on.
mean, it's it happens. It's life. We don't need to edit out the natural things that happen in everyday life.
Well, fair enough. But yeah, today, I think our first topic should be about the current events of what's going on in tech and stuff now, and I think the latest is DeepSeek. I'm sure you know very much about what's happening with that, Ali.
Everybody's talking about DeepSeek.
Yeah, and everybody knows about that now. Um, I mean, it's kind of crazy that a random Chinese company just came up with a super like intelligence model that is as good as OpenAI's model, right?
Yeah,
And also like for cheap. Pretty wild stuff, in my
yeah.
opinion.
I I wouldn't call it any AI models intelligent. This is just me being nitpicky, but I refuse to accept that there's any form of intelligence. It's just like prediction of what comes next. That's what forms the foundation of all this stuff. But yeah, I
Like
get what you mean.
someone said,
Like in terms of performance.
A10 performance, yeah. I think I've forgotten the guy's name on Twitter. He had like an idea of like, what LLMs are generally are just super good text predictor. Like, like your phone keyboard predicts your next word, right? Like, those
Yeah.
models were really good, but this is just like
Next level.
um next level one, like, yeah. But they're not really I don't think they're that smart, in my opinion. They're just smart on like information they've been provided. No,
Yeah.
you mean like intelligence, like you said.
Yeah. And a user's perspective, they can seem smart when they spit out a very impressive answer for something that you ask. But when you get into some like problem solving tasks,
Hmm.
some very complex stuff or something that's very specific, then you start saying how you have to like really think about your prompt. You have to start thinking about
Oh yeah,
like, how am I going to refining the prompt, reprompting and clarifying, or change this and change that, modify this. That's when I get like when you start having to do those pretty more advanced stuff. That's when everything starts to come apart. And it's like, okay, yeah, this thing is just dumb. It's helpful. I can use it. I
yeah.
can get it to accelerate some of the things I'm working on. But at the end of the day, it's like it's dumb.
To be honest, that's
That's
fair,
the way
and
I
I
see it
think
anyway.
yeah, that's totally fair. Um, like I also think like if it was that intelligent, we wouldn't need like prompt engineers. Like there shouldn't be someone that is super good at prompting. If he's really intelligent, I should be able to just say some random gibberish about what I want, and is able to like just spit out solutions for me because it's intelligent in quotes, right? But if you have to like trick it or like find a way for it to like answer you the right way, just means you are trying to like ask it a question in a way that you want it to give you an answer, right? Again, it's a rabbit hole, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah,
So
just that one word, and I went on
yeah,
that
it triggered
tangent.
you. Yeah, the AI
um,
uprising is coming. The robot uprising took over
yeah.
the world, I guess.
I mean, this is not related to DeepSeek, but did you see that video of what's his name, Kai Senat, some dude who bought like a 70K humanoid
Oh
robot,
yeah, I think I saw that.
and these guys
Yeah,
were just like
dude.
torturing the thing, like
Dude, I know. We just like said, ChatGPT and stuff. They're not intelligent and
they
they're
don't
not
really
smart,
think.
right? But
in the real
I
sense.
still
Yeah.
say please to ChatGPT every single time I ask you something. Like, please, just in case, like, this has been recorded and in the future, like, oh yeah, you're being rude to us, back
Yeah.
then. I'm safe.
Be on the good side of
I'll be
the
on the
AI.
good side.
Um, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
interesting because these models are trained on like human generated stuff, like
Oh yeah.
huge chunks of text, videos, content from the internet. So it makes
Illegal, by the
sense.
way.
Sorry?
Illegal.
Yeah, don't say that part out loud. But I mean, that's like the entire startup model, like Uber,
Yeah.
Lyft, of them. Like, get it done, ask for forgiveness, ask for permission later.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Airbnb specifically.
yeah, but what was I saying just now? I was talking about, yeah. It's funny how, like, even though they're not intelligent and it's just like processing and like just prediction, we still kind of interact with it in like a human way because it's been trained on human generated data. Like you say, please,
Yeah.
because like it's it's trained on lots of data where it kind of, I don't want to say knows, but it kind of has some level of like understanding. Again, I'm using that word very very, very
Yeah.
lightly here because lack of better words, I guess. It's using it's been trained on that data, so it has some level of like understanding, quote unquote, of what it means to be polite, what it means to like, and then you're basically trying to like gaslight it into doing, because sometimes it, it
Actually, it's
it
gaslighting.
gets lazy. It gets lazy
Yeah.
sometimes, and it just like you ask it to do something, and it gives you a template and says, "Oh, fill in details here," and I'm just like, "No, I need you to actually do the work."
Yep. Yep.
Stop
Yep.
being lazy. Like sometimes I just like
Yeah.
nudge it. Yeah, stop being lazy or stop assuming things. Ask questions when something is not clear. That kind of thing. So there's
Like
still some
sometimes you
level
tell
of
it to
like,
like stop assuming and it still continues assuming, right? It's like,
yeah,
if you hallucinate, even when you've told it to stop hallucinating.
yeah, kind of like a child.
Oh yeah. Yep.
um, but yeah, this back to what I was saying. This video where they were like, kicking, punching, pushing this robot, and I'm like, I know that is it's just metal with like some like processors and chips inside with software and an AI model running. It's not it's not alive. It's like it's an object. It's just like me. It's almost like me there's no like real difference between kicking that and like me kicking some cardboard box in my
Yeah.
room,
Mhm.
right? It's I don't know. It's what do you think about that? Like, were you disturbed when you saw that video?
I mean, to be honest, I think like what I just thought about is we humans generally, I think we need some help, right? So because like again, it's not alive. It's just a chunk of metal. But I felt bad for the humanoid because it looked restless,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, you also reminded me of do you know Waymo cars, the
Yeah.
self-driving cars, right? One got vandalized in, can't remember the city where it got vandalized, but it was the same scenario. It was just a restless self-driving car that was just
Like
supposed to get
Delamain.
like Delamain. Yep, yep, you got it. And it just got extremely vandalized, had to be towed away and stuff, right? Like, I think if there's an uprising of robots, most of us will not make it. That's what I think. Most of us will make it.
Oh, just for the, I guess, uninitiated, when I said Delamain, it was just a reference to
Oh yeah,
this game Cyberpunk, where there's like some robo taxi that that's like super intelligent. But yeah, that's just wanted to explain that for those that haven't
yeah.
played
Check
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk out. It's a pretty good game.
Yeah, still haven't finished it yet, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the
um,
original topic, DeepSeek.
no,
We've
wait.
went
Before we
on
go
like
back to
huge
DeepSeek,
tangent. Yeah.
before we go back to DeepSeek, I actually do still want to talk a bit about that video because, like, they they like watching it disturbs you, even though you know it's not like a real thing. And I
Mhm.
saw a few people commenting and comparing it to like, well, you play GTA and you kill random people on
Yeah,
the streets,
well, kind of
but
different.
then like you see that it's like it's happening, but it's happening inside your computer,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
there's no like physical object that
Mm-hmm,
represents what
mm-hmm,
you're
mm-hmm.
doing. But some people were arguing that it's basically the same thing.
It's really not the same.
It's not the
I
same.
mean, it's not the same. It's not the same. It looked that felt more and it looked more like torture
Yeah,
than, just like a virtual, um, punching somebody in GTA is totally different from this.
yeah. But yeah, anyway, that's yeah, that's just the last thing I wanted to add on that one. Back
Yeah.
to DeepSeek.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, there's just so much to uncover in like when it comes to DeepSeek. I feel like, specifically like apparently OpenAI is also like investigating DeepSeek to see if they used um the O1 model to distill like it distill to distill like the R1, which is like DeepSeek's model, right? So basically not really training to it, but OpenAI
Using the
has a
outputs of
exactly
that
right
model
O1. Yeah, pretty
to
much,
train
right?
or partially to train DeepSeek R1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
but
there
the
are
thing
two
is like
ways of like training models generally. There's
yeah,
like something called a reinforcement, which is like you feed it as much data to like train it, and there's like the distilling one, which is you give it a different model, so like basically like use the output to train it. One is
yeah,
better than the other. The distilling one is obviously more cheaper because you're just using a different model, and it's also much more faster, right? So when most people say, oh, the DeepSeek team used $5 million to train that model, it's correct, but at the same time, they didn't build the model from scratch, right? So again, this is all hypothetical. Like it's not
yeah,
confirmed. There's still an investigation going on. So, but if that's the case, they technically didn't train a new model. OpenAI used like billions of dollars to like train their own model, right? But I also think, just my opinion, right? OpenAI does not have uh, the right to say, this somebody stole their model. Everyone can say it, but not OpenAI. Because they technically trained their entire model on everybody's data without even asking for permission. They train their model on the entire internet without asking for
yeah.
permission from anybody. So
And
yeah, they
there's
don't have
even
the right to
current
say.
lawsuits
They
challenging
have
that.
tons of lawsuits. They have lawsuits
Yeah,
from
I
George
think
R. R.
New York is
Martin,
it New York Times or
from
New York Post?
I know George R. R. Martin is suing them as well. They have like
Yeah,
so many lawsuits going on. Like it's kind of crazy that they are coming out to say somebody stole their
the
stuff, right?
audacity really. But
Yeah, I
the
mean,
thing is like we also have to think about the fact that OpenAI has incentive to claim that DeepSeek
yeah,
basically stole data from like. Of course, they would want to say that because DeepSeek is like threatening the entire like
oh yeah, 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 and it's
you
open
know
source. It's kind of wild
yeah
that they just built that model and they made it open source. It's like a slap on the face. Like
yeah
take this O1 model that OpenAI is charging $200 for, and just take it for free. Kind of crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also like when it comes to DeepSeek, like I don't think anyone really knows exactly how much they spent. That's what they claim,
Oh yeah,
and
there's that.
but
There's that as well.
how do we
Yeah.
know? I mean, it makes
So
sense. Like based on what they've said, it makes sense that their approach would make it cost a lot less.
mhm.
But again, is it that low? We don't know.
Yeah, I
But that's the
mean,
only information we have right now.
there's also the fact that people have come out and say DeepSeek has a whole lot of like NVIDIA GPUs, just ordering them and like using them right more than they say they do, which I feel like all of that just deeps down the rabbit hole of like conspiracy theory and China
Yeah,
wanting to be on top and stuff. It's it's just a conspiracy in my opinion. They might not, I don't know. but at this point, it's becoming a conspiracy theory rather than a fact.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And don't you just love all the concerns about, data privacy and all of that? And,
yeah.
like,
Like when it comes to China, I feel like people are more paranoid about, oh yes, China, they're taking our data. But like Meta is taking our data. OpenAI is taking our data. I mean, Meta specifically, right? They've been caught selling data in
yeah,
the past, right?
they've been
And
caught so many times
so
doing
many
shady
times.
stuff.
Yeah. So,
And, 2 billion people, or however many people, still use all their
yeah,
platforms.
yeah, yeah. And to think like people
So,
still say, oh yeah, it's Chinese company. China wants just wants our data. I mean, they probably do, but you should probably care more about what's probably in your backyard, right? Like Facebook
yeah.
and Meta. So, yeah,
And I think it makes sense that, people in uh, the US, especially if you're in government or like other Western countries, it makes sense that they are like, always on their toes about data collection and anything that has to do with China or any, because
yeah,
they see it as like it's a rivalry. Everyone wants to come out on top, that kind of thing. It's like an
yeah,
arms race
yeah,
that's going on. I think the geopolitical side of this is also very interesting because, yeah, there are lots of companies, there are lots of, VCs pumping billions into this industry. But I think another major factor that plays a role is the geopolitical aspect. Like no country wants to get left behind. Everyone wants to be like on the cutting edge, on the most
yep,
advanced, because if you think about it, like most major innovations that have taken lots of money and lots of effort to build in the past, say, 100 years, that I know of anyway, they're caused by, they have some kind of impact from
yeah,
geopolitical reasons.
yeah, yeah,
For instance,
yeah.
if we look at the internet started out
The
as like a
internet is the
defense
craziest one. Yeah,
research project, right? Um, so yeah, I think the geopolitical aspects, governments getting involved, that's
Ali, can you
just
hear me?
like, hello?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can
You
hear
got
you now. My
yeah,
my
got cut off for a
VPN
bit.
got disconnected for whatever reason. Um, yeah, I'm back now.
Okay,
What did you
we
hear
just
last?
internet.
Yeah, the internet itself is, was originally a defense research project because, you know, um, you need communications, like very effective communications. If you have
Mhm.
different assets in the battlefield or in different regions or locations, gathering intelligence and all of that, you would need a way to communicate. The whole space race was triggered by like Americans realizing that the
Yeah,
Russians had gone,
I
gone
mean,
to
I think
space, and it was,
also like
it's
kind of
just,
funny that
yeah,
all of this I just mentioned
yeah,
somehow is also like a geopolitical like race as well. Like the internet, for example, the Americans got internet before the Chinese, right? And I still saw like a video of the president at the time, to remember what's his name, was saying China will never get the internet. You know, pretty much it was like guaranteeing like, just the same way, maybe for the AI race, for example, we're saying, oh, US will always have the best like AI model, or like,
yeah,
US is going to, have the medical, um, what's it called, breakthrough when it comes to like with AI and stuff, right? It's not guaranteed, but like, I feel like some of these things are also, everybody wants to be on top when it comes to, everybody wants to be the first to do it. The US
yeah,
wants to be the first to put their flag on the moon as well. It
yeah,
was a whole like just like a rivalry among everybody. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And the thing is that, like, thing I want people to keep in mind is, um when people talk about privacy concerns with, Chinese companies, like, just think about the amount of data that the products that you use every day take. Google, Microsoft, Apple, you know, Apple
mm-hmm.
Apple has managed to get this perception as like
Yep.
privacy,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
security, and all of
Yep.
that. But just because
Well, no,
it's
it's not.
locked
That's not
down
true.
doesn't mean like your data is not being collected and
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
Um,
Facts. Yeah.
like Google got caught with um some privacy stuff where if you're using Google Chrome like in incognito mode,
Oh yeah. I think I saw
the
that.
way like there was a disparity between how they advertised incognito mode and how it actually worked for like
Yeah.
lay people. You could look at that and go, oh yeah, there's no data collection
Yep.
going on, and they had to pay out like some kind of damages based on that lawsuit, class action lawsuits. So just think about the sheer amount of data that's been collected. Think about how many times like privacy laws have been broken, or like your privacy policies by the companies themselves. Even though the privacy policies, if you read them, they talk about how they collect all this data and they use them. They themselves still breach these policies and go beyond
Yep.
what they agreed on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Facebook or Meta got caught literally giving their customers and even non-customers malware, like spyware. Like they bought a VPN startup and used that VPN app to collect data. And VPNs are advertised as protect your privacy and all of that.
Yeah.
Using that VPN app to collect people's data and use that to fight against Snapchat. Like imagine you have a VPN app on your phone, and that VPN app is collecting telemetry from all the apps that you're using and sending it to Facebook. Even
I
the
mean,
apps like data about how you use Snapchat and all of that going to Facebook, and that is literally cybercrime. If a random person on the streets, like if I did something like that, I would end up in jail for sure.
of course.
And
Yeah.
there was no like consequences for that. So just think about that when people start to raise privacy concerns about Chinese companies and China. Yeah, you should be concerned, but
That should
just
not be
because
a
you're
major
concerned
concern.
about this one doesn't mean you should
Yeah.
completely like be
I mean,
carefree and
in my
not
opinion,
worry
I
about that one.
feel like, the concern in quotes, right? They're not
Yeah.
really concerned about privacy. They're more of like a political like concern, right?
Yeah.
Technically it's not they don't it's not like a concern about the users us, right? It's more of like, oh, some trade secrets might be shared on like TikTok or something, for example, by like, a military person or something like that, So
Yeah.
it's more of like sharing like all these secrets on like all these platforms, right? It is not. It's not really about us, the end users, like the actual users, and the data that's been shared. I don't think they care that much about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Especially from like the government perspective, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the data collection by American companies favors the government in the US.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
it's like
Exactly.
it's the same thing. Like they do the
Same
same
thing.
thing,
Yeah.
but when they're talking about it, they make it seem as if it's a bigger problem when the other guy
Yeah.
does it.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I like to say even like American companies collect, because we don't use a lot of Chinese apps, right? We just use
yeah,
few like TikTok. So like on the broad side, like American companies collect a lot more data. Our phones, everything that we use are like, from all these American companies. We should be more concerned about these companies than just, one single like Chinese company. Right.
yeah. If you think about it that way, the risk
Yeah.
is actually higher from that side.
Yes, it risks
But
much higher.
obviously,
Yeah.
like they have a lot more influence over the narrative,
Oh yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah.
Like in cybersecurity, for instance, when we're learning about threat actors and all these different, cybercrime groups, they talk about, there's a normal, like individual hackers that try to get into systems and make a little bit of profit. There's
Yeah.
the organized crime gangs that like operate pretty much like drug lords and all this, crime gangs, but in the cyberspace. And then there's like nation state threat actors. So either like actual government agencies or state sponsored hackers. So there could be a hacking group that's like the government is either funding them or just giving them cover to do, as long as what they're doing is affecting their own opponents, not
Yep.
their allies or them. So, for
Yeah.
instance, there could be like some Russian hacking groups or hacking groups that are aligned with Russia that like hack targets in like the USA, the UK, Europe, but they will not attack anything that's like Russian or like
Yeah, of course.
Russian allied.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not necessarily the governments themselves, but they would like the government won't come after them as long as they're like not doing anything that's harming the government. Every now
Yeah.
and then they'll like attack some US government and all of that. So it's kind of like benefiting them both. But I've not ever done a cybersecurity course or like where they're talking about cyber threats, and they always mention Russian threats, North Korean threats, Chinese threats, and these are
No
real
American
stuff.
threat.
But nobody ever mentions
Yep. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
US as like a nation state threat actor, and
Yep.
they are. If you're like on the other side of things,
Yeah.
like they would see the US as one of their biggest cyber threats.
Of course. Yeah.
But most people don't think about things that way. Like,
Yeah.
and it's easy. Like even hackers are taking advantage of this, where they would proxy their connection through China or Russia, because it's easy to come to a conclusion that, oh yeah, it's the Russians.
Easy Russians
But
or easy
you
Chinese.
could be
Yeah.
like in Kent.
Yeah.
You could be in
Yeah.
New York doing your
Yep.
thing, but
Yeah.
it's easy for people to like make that conclusion that the threat is coming from a perceived or real adversary nation. But yeah, yeah,
That's
that was a rant.
that was a rant. Yeah. Again, I think we just conclude and on DeepSeek generally. I think, in my opinion, we'll see more and more models that just like DeepSeek that will come out from like different countries, not just China, not just Chinese companies. But I think the world needs open source models. I think the closed source or OpenAI is going to. I'm not going to say it's going to come to an end, because I think what they're going to have they are first to market. So most like consumers and most like typical like end users, they know ChatGPT, right? So they have that going for them. But the open source models are going to be really great for power users like us that can just self-host our models, train our models, and just use them, and they'll be as powerful as OpenAI's
Yeah.
model, I guess.
And there are going to be lots of companies that basically they would host these open source models for a fee. So, for instance, instead of being forced to use like OpenAI models,
Yeah,
you could just
yeah.
go to any other company that would run an open source model.
To be honest, I will also not trust any other company to host my model for me if
Yeah.
I'm really being data
Exactly.
cautious,
But
right? What I
yeah,
would
I'm
do,
just saying, for people that don't have the compute power
we don't have the
to
compute.
run
Yes,
all
yes,
these
yes.
big models.
Yeah, but I also think compute is going to get cheaper. Like I feel like it might take some time, but I think it's going to get cheaper. Like the Nvidia's small computer that's supposed to run AI models, right, is less
Yeah.
expensive than a MacBook Pro, right? Just think about that. So,
Yeah.
and I feel
But
like
also, I think it's going to become more efficient to run models.
it's going to be more efficient to run models. Yeah,
Like, it will take less resources to run
yeah,
models.
yeah. I mean, I've seen people like chain different computers, like chain like 4 Mac Minis just to run like it. It's just not. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's for that's like extreme power users that are just experimenting or they really want it. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Cool.
like right now, I can't run any like
Yeah,
huge
same.
models. I'm only running
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
smaller ones. And I
Yep.
can tell the difference of in quality of the answers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think actually, this is something I wanted to talk more about. Maybe we can focus on that in another episode. The entire thing about open models. Just go in depth into that
Yeah.
aspect of things, because I think it's very important. Because, like, if you think about it, OpenAI is really closed AI. Like,
Sure. Like
the thing is
it's
that,
not. It doesn't open about it.
yeah, and the thing is that the fact that they used public data, like things like the collective work of mankind. I don't want to start sounding philosophical here, but
You do sound.
the collective work of mankind. Like, if you think about all the articles, all the books, all the videos, arts, like,
Yep.
this is, you can argue that it's a collective work of mankind. To now train a model based on that, and then make it and close it off, it doesn't make any sense. Like, in a way, you could argue that humanity has a right
Yep.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
to this. I'm not saying you should run it on your servers for free, and
Please open
unlimited.
source it.
At least
Give people the
open
option.
source, like the community, like humanity as a whole, should be able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do that and still make profits.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, OpenAI is it's just the typical example of corporate greed, I guess. Because I mean, they were meant to do that. They open source some of their
It
models
was
in the
meant to
past.
be.
Like
It's a non-profit. Like, that's
it's
how
a
it
non-profit.
started. As
It's
a
a non-profit.
non-profit.
Yeah.
Like, you could argue that other companies like Anthropic or whatever, they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
corporations. That's how they started. It was never
Yeah.
a non-profit. But for OpenAI, it started at, it almost feels like a bait and switch, because you know, if you're really a non-profit, why are you not? Why are you closing up
Yeah.
your model? Why are you doing all this stuff?
Yeah. 100% agree.
Anyway, hope
We can
I
have
think
like
we
an
mentioned,
in-depth conversation about
yeah.
closed source models in a different episode. I think there's so much to unpack there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a lot to unpack there. But, like, I just wanted to say, all the companies that we've mentioned here, like, sooner or later, we're going to end up applying to jobs in these companies. I mean, tell me you've never applied to all the companies we've mentioned here. So yeah, hopefully they don't get to watch this episode.
No, actually,
Well, anyway, if this goes well, maybe we'll never have to apply for jobs anymore. Who knows?
we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, thank you for listening to Flac Talk. I remain your co-host, Ali.
And Shaggy as well. Hopefully we'll be able to come on with more episodes in the future and not just give up on this. And stick to it this time around. But
yeah. I really hope you enjoyed this, learned a thing or two, or at least just enjoyed listening to us talk about all these things. We're going to come up with more stuff, so stay tuned. Subscribe, like, whatever platform you're on. Share this with your friends and your family members and your mates.
loved ones. All right. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.